All right, hello, welcome everyone. Welcome. It is Tuesday, September 1st. I hope everyone's doing well. Welcome to our Avid audio community plugin. We're back. It's Tuesday. First, wanted to thank Simon Sherborne and Nick Fry from the farm last week. Had a really great webinar. I was out of the office, I was working on some stuff here in the studio last week, so I but I was able to attend for a few minutes, and I thought it was great. So again, thank you to Simon, thank you to Nick, for those of you who were able to attend. Really, really great webinar last week. We've got a great one today as well. So again, welcome to everyone here, whether you're here on our Zoom, if you registered for our webinar, you're here in Zoom, but you might also be checking this out live right now, whether it's on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitter, wherever you might be in the world, on whatever platform. Welcome. We're really glad to have you here. My name is Greg Chin. I am the audio evangelist for Avid, based here in Miami, Florida. And we've got a great session for you guys today. So I'm in a minute or so, I'm going to hand it over to our host today, Gaurav Harrish, who's going to walk us through some essentials around and about setting up a home studio. He's based in the UK. He's built his studio at home, actually during lockdown, during quarantine. And he's going to talk us through a little bit of that and some best practices there. So before we jump into that, I just wanted to quickly kind of walk through some best practices here, and just some housekeeping, so to speak. So to get, for those of you who are here, who registered for the webinar, who are here on our Zoom, a couple of things I wanted to point out so that you have the best webinar experience possible. So you'll notice on the top right-hand corner of your Zoom application, make sure you've got gallery view selected rather than speaker view. Now, today we don't have a panel, so to speak, but once we get into the Q&A portion, a couple of us might appear on screen. And this way you're able to kind of see everyone and interact with everyone kind of as a group rather than just, looking at whoever's speaking at that moment. Might make things a little bit easier for you. Also, if you happen to see any of the non-video participants on your screen, you can go ahead and hide those folks so that they don't clutter your screen and take up all your real estate. So if directly to the right of your mute button, a little mute button, you'll see these 3 dots. You can click that and then select hide non-video participants. So that frees up some real estate in your screen. So we will have a Q&A portion. So around quarter till, Gaurav will kind of open it up for some Q&A. We've got some moderators on all the platforms I just mentioned, so you can ask some questions there. And here we'll be taking questions. Myself, Dave Tyler's here, Gil Gowing is here as well. We're going to be kind of answering questions as we go along to help out. But we'll, some of these questions that are specifically for Gaurav, we'll make sure we kind of hold them until the Q&A portion, so he can continue going through his presentation, and then we'll ask, we'll start tossing these questions over to Gaurav during the Q&A. So if you want to ask a question here on the Zoom, very simple. You'll just click the Q&A icon on your menu bar, and then type your question. Please give as much detail as possible. And then we'll get to as many as we can. We don't always get to every single one of them, but again, myself, Dave, Gil will do our best to help answer, and of course, Gaurav will answer them live in the Q&A portion of the presentation. So if you've got any questions, type them there. Please keep them respectful. This is a safe space, but we want to make sure we're respectful of each other and certainly of our guests. So with that in mind, I'd like to turn it over and welcome our presenter today. So Gaurav Harrish is an application specialist here at Avid. He's based in the UK. He's an amazing producer and artist. I'm really been loving the music that I've heard of his, and he's going to walk us through some of that as well. So with that, I think I'd like to turn it over to Gaurav. Gaurav, how are you, man?
Hey, Greg. Thank you so much for that great intro. Hey, everyone. So I'm Gaurav, and today I'm actually joined in the studio by one of my artists and one of my good friends. This is Varose, and he's a singer-songwriter as well as myself, songwriter, producer, and an engineer from London, UK. So today I'm going to be talking to you guys through how I built this studio in my house in London during lockdown. So it was a great period where I had some time, and I thought, you know what, I'm going to build a studio. So today's webinar, I'm going to actually talk about how I did it, the steps I took, and actually where I actually started from. So I started music kind of back in 2000 and let's say 10, 11. Just seeing a lot of videos online and stuff like that, which kind of got me to the point where I was like, hey, I want to start recording. I want to start singing. I couldn't sing, I couldn't songwrite, but it was just something that I saw online, And I was like, I want to do that too, And I was a huge fan and still a huge fan of Drake. Now, Drake, as you know, he's a great R&B, hip hop, and kind of he's taken over pop music, and he's always in our charts. And I'm inspired by kind of the work that he does. But as well as that, I'm inspired by how his vocals get recorded and how everything that he's done previously on his last albums and everything, how it all got recorded. So back in 2012, a video came up and it was by one of his producers called OVO40. And it was a video that they done with Avid and Pro Tools, and it was showing the S5 Fusion. And when I saw that, I was just inspired, and I was like, "Hey, I want to have that guy's job. I want to know what he does. He seems like such a cool guy." And that was kind of how I initially kind of broke into, let's say, digital recording and just into the music kind of world. It was just such a huge world. And back then we had a M-Audio Fast Track in my studio, which was like a small interface. It's got a in and out, and it had a gain knob on top, to record vocals, and it was just like a small version that came with a free version of Pro Tools. And again, I had no idea how to use it. I was a beginner, and I just really wanted to dive into that world. So what I'm going to do now, guys, is I'm actually going to show you what my studio initially looked like, and then I'm going to show you how we kind of moved over into kind of this studio, what it's become now. So as you see, it looks pretty nice now, but it was never like that at the beginning. So I'm going to show you guys now. So we're going to begin with the first image. Now, this was back in 2012. Now, as you see, I had no idea where anything goes. I had no idea how to kind of set up your mic or where the mic should be placed or where my monitor should be. And I mean, it's kind of the beginning steps of how I started music. And I look pretty cool with the hat on backwards as well back in 2012. I'd never do that now. So for a start, I had my guitar right in front of me. I don't know why I did that. It was just great space to put something. So I thought I'll put the guitar. I had my B-Tech certificate, and I was like, let me frame it and put it there so I can look at it every day. And then I had my monitor at the bottom, and I had a computer monitor at the top. I don't know why I actually did that, but it was just, again, using all the space I had. And then I had a small mixer just at the bottom, and some 2 PC speakers there. So when I initially started this room was tiny. It was like a little box room. And it was just a room my dad had kind of had spare and was like, hey, look, go in there and, take your computer desk from your room and start setting up a studio. And I was like, yeah, cool, I'll do that. And I put my small little speakers that I had the monitors in on the corners, one on kind of the middle, one at the top. And again, I don't know where speaker placement was. I don't know what acoustic treatment was. I didn't know how to trap sound. And I didn't know how to record, This is, again, it's just all really beginner stuff that I had to go through to get to the point where I was today. So it came now to lockdown, 2020's come. Around March 24th, me and my dad actually decided that there was a space in the garage that we thought, let's actually start building a studio there. Because now I've had all the knowledge and, I've worked in bigger studios and working at Pro Tools and stuff and Avid. It just made sense that I want to build somewhere where I can work, a creative space where artists like Veroz can come down, and going back to Veroz, he's wrote several records before, with labels and everyone. I want people like Veroz to feel like they're in a comfortable environment where they can write, they can track vocals, and they can listen to great music, that they're recording. So in day one over here, as you can see, we started building the frame. We started placing kind of insulation on the walls between the door and the frame. And that kind of started creating a little bit of kind of deadening the sound from that wall, started thickening it up a little bit. And again, I'm no expert with acoustic treatment or soundproofing or anything like that. So everything was just stuff that I've learned from online. But I'll go into that in a second as well. So back on day 3 now, we started doing the same thing that we did to the walls, but on the floor. And as you see, the actual wood panels that we've got, they were just spare wood panels that we had in the garage, in the garden, that my dad was like, look, they're going to waste. Let's just try using the material we've got. So as you see, it's a lot of old material that we've used. And on to the right-hand side now, day 5, is when we finished everything. We kind of done the electrical stuff. We put in some spotlights at the top, and it just started to look more like a room, So just flicking off over here, you can see that I've got my desk now slowly going to start coming in, and we've painted the walls to white because for myself, I wanted to create I wanted to paint the walls like black, because I've seen it so many studios. But then I wanted to feel like more airy and more spacious. And, going on Google, going on YouTube, a lot of people had painted their rooms white. So I thought, I'm going to try this with spotlights. So it just feels like a bigger room. And that's exactly what I did. And actually, it really helped. White flooring, white walls, white ceiling. was great. And to the right now is what you have kind of on day 7 when I say it was complete. It had all the stuff in it that I had from before, my MacBook and some panels that I created, and this tiny little bass trap in the corner, which didn't do much, but I expanded it to what it is today. Yeah, and so that's the kind of progression in 7 days during lockdown that I thought me and my dad were like, we need to create somewhere where I can, go and just write and have people over eventually when lockdown's over, and we can, and I could just write. So that was that. So what I'm going to talk about now actually is I'm going to go off to kind of my creative environment. As you saw, that was my studio on day 7, but from then as well, it started to kind of change a little bit. So I'm just going to flick. I'm just going to show you kind of where I've placed everything at the minute. So as you can see, this is my comfortable environment right now. You see, I have my MPK keyboard for when I'm doing creative stuff like MIDIs and sampling and, beat production and stuff like that. I have my S1 over here for when I'm mixing. I have my interface, which is by Focusrite, just over here in front of me. And then I have my MacBook, and everything's at arm's reach because I've made it here. Now, as you see, I've got a studio desk, but from the first picture I showed you, you could start from just a simple desk or like a plank of wood against a wall, anything where you can just place stuff. And for me personally, it's all about where everything is placed and just making sure it's at arm's reach. Even from day 1, as you saw that picture, it was all about arm's reach. I wanted to make sure my mixer, and even till this day, my mixer's still on my left-hand side. The interface still in front of me, and my speakers are, again, just over behind me. So, in front of me, sorry. So that was kind of like all about my studio and kind of where I want to place everything. I have my mouse and keyboard over here, which I can pull back and forth. And from this desk, I have kind of had several other desks which worked for a while, but then they didn't work as well. Now, this is probably the maximum size desk I can get in this studio. But if I had a choice again, if I had a bigger budget, I could definitely get a bigger desk, and have a bigger console, whatever I'd love to do. Love to have in there. So that would be great. And another thing that I like working with to get myself feeling creative, as well as the artists that I'm with, is by having lights in the room. So I'm a big fan of having lights, mood lighting and kind of just lots of lights for just myself to work in, as well as the artists and the songwriters I'm with. So as you see where Rose is sitting now, I have some purple mood lighting going around. And then if he was going to track, sometimes he might want to just turn off the main light, the spotlight, just so he feels like he's in the vibe. And sometimes I have rappers or artists who come in and they want bright lights and they want to turn the mood lights off and just have more kind of, brighter light. And again, there's no right or wrong to this. And just going back to learning off YouTube, again, there's no right and wrong. Everything, everything can be right, everything can be wrong. It's all about trial and error. So just keep trying different things in your studio that works for you specifically. And then also have kind of little things that you can maybe change so it works for someone else who you're working with. So for example, sometimes Varose, he likes to write next to me and have the mic next to me right over here. So I might have to move away my keyboard. I might have to move my S1 to the right or my interface, and everything is easily done. So again, it's just having the option of moving stuff around, which is great, So that takes me on now to cable management and how important it is to me to actually have cable management in the studio. So when we were building the studio, I was like to my dad, I was like, oh, there's so many cables sticking out. Like this is kind of, it's killing my OCD. I want to somehow get all my cables so no one can see them. So what we did was we Googled a little bit, went on Amazon and we purchased some really cheap, they're called cable snakes. And they basically allow you to pop about 6 cables into a snake, and then it just keeps it in one snake and then just chuck it kind of to the back of the room, and everything's compiled into a single kind of thick looking cable snake. And then we cable tied it off and we just, and now that's exactly how I've done all my cables at the back of the studio. Now, again, that was something that I did on a budget. There's probably other ways that you could do. I've seen people have more kind of boxes. They've built boxes and stuff like that. But again, with me, I just wanted a quick, easy fix. And at that point, it was just go on Amazon and just writing cable ties or cable snake, and that, that came up. So, and again, the best thing about kind of like this day and age, which is fantastic, is the ability to, like we've all got YouTube, you can go on YouTube, you can write in how to tidy a studio, how to build a studio, or how to set up your studio, and loads of options will come up and you can keep viewing these, write some notes of what you could do to your studio. And again, one kind of tip is whatever they do in their studio and you do in yours, it's never going to be the same because the space will be different, So whatever you see on YouTube, just you don't have to follow it. And then if you're kind of upset that it didn't work, just be aware that whatever they do, just take it as a guideline and you kind of do your own thing because it's your own space. So you want to make sure that you could do something for your creative environment, right? So example for that, I would say when I got the mood lights, they said don't put it around the acoustic panels. I'm not sure why, but I did that because I thought it looked pretty cool, and it works, to be fair, and I really like it. So that's the main thing. Right. So now I'm going to go on to actually my speakers, and how important the listening environment is. So as you saw in the first image, I had my speakers kind of one to the right and one at the top, basically, so they were like this. And that back then seemed like it was the best thing to do. I mean, if you're listening like that, it's amazing, but I'll be listening like this. So I need them directly in front of me. Now, a couple of weeks ago, I had them on stands and they were kind of at the back, but the only thing was they were obstructed by my laptop. I had some papers, I had a notebook, and I thought I can hear it. It's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. Going onto YouTube, and I've started seeing other people and I'm thinking, wait, they have theirs kind of more in an equilateral triangle. So I started to research and I figured out that, oh, hold on, this equilateral triangle is actually a very useful point. And again, I learned it from YouTube. And that was basically, you have to make sure you're in a great listening position, So I'd say kind of in the middle of both the speakers. And then what you want to do is you want to get kind of like a measuring tape and just measure the distance between your left speaker to the right speaker to your right ear, and then your left ear to the left speaker. And everything should be equilateral. So in my studio, it is 78 centimeters that way, 78 this way, and 78 that way. And again, this being 78 is not going to be the same in your studio. It would depend on your desk and your kind of, where everything's kind of placed. But yeah, for my studio, it worked to 78 by 78. So that's what I did. And again, YouTube was a great way to learn that. And also I took the speakers off the stands to make sure that they're ear level. And that was actually placing them on my, the top ledge of my desk. And if you don't have a top ledge, then you could buy other kind of big stands, or you could buy just like the best thing that we did back in the day is we got a plank of wood from a hardware store. We got some brackets and we just put it on the wall, and it worked. It was still ear level. Obviously, I didn't know exactly what to do back then, but just by watching people on YouTube and stuff and getting inspiration from other people, it made sense to just have them against the wall. And that's what I do. So you want to have a clear line of sight. You want to make sure nothing's kind of in the way, obstructing. And it honestly, like when I did that and I heard the difference, I was like, wow, I've been having them on stands and like not in ear level for so long. Have I been mixing wrong? Have I been making music wrong? But luckily I found that fault and I fixed it and it works for my studio. And it's it's now it sounds great. So from that point onwards, I'm going to move on to now my acoustic treatment, or kind of the slight acoustic treatment I do have. As you saw my final day 7 pictures, I had some black foam panels and I put them together and I just placed them randomly in the room, right? Because I thought that would trap the reflections. But actually, I was a little bit wrong, and there still was echoes, there still was reverb, natural reverb, and I was thinking, man, it's kind of, it's really, it's not working, I could still hear, natural reverb. So I had some rock wall panels gifted to me. Now these ones here, they were gifted to me, but you can build these yourself. I've seen a lot of people do it, and I've actually done it before as well, where you can get kind of wood, like a frame, as I built the studio, like a small frame, put some rock wool in there, and then bring some fabric over the top, tidying it up, and then you've made like a panel yourself. So it's such an easy option. And again, I keep saying it, but YouTube has all of this stuff, how to build rock wool panels, where to place your treatment and stuff like that, So going back to my panels, I placed them in these points. And the way I did that was I was sitting in my listening position. So over here, I had obviously everything set up perfectly. And my friend actually ran a small mirror around this size to the left-hand side of the mirror of the wall. And I was looking straight, but as soon as I saw on the mirror that my right speaker had been shown, I put a mark there. I did the same on the right-hand side over here. And that way, I've now marked out the early reflections. So then me and my dad, we actually put the panels directly on the early reflections, and we worked our way towards the end of the middle part of the studio. As you see, I have a curtain here as well. And that was like a temporary fix of when the vocalist was tracking over there, it was just too much space. So I put some kind of thick curtains in the middle, and it did help. It did help, and it still does help. But for now, because I've got these cool rock wall panels, I've just put them on the walls, and to be fair, it's perfect. Over in the kind of mixing area where Veroz is, social distancing from myself, we have one panel over here. Now, I've done that because when I put 2 panels up, it sounded too damp. It sounded too dead, and I was like, you know what? that doesn't sound cool. I like natural reverb, you know. I like when some of the I like air, you know. I'm a big fan of air on vocals and presence and stuff. So I didn't want to kind of get rid of the depth of the vocals. I didn't want them to sound too dead, you know. So we put one panel in there and it worked. And I still have kind of, if you see, I still have 4 foam panels there. You know, they're there because it kind of just added a little bit more dampening towards that side of the wall. Now, that is the acoustic mirror trick, you know. So again, just run a mirror across the wall and mark down the points where you can see the right-hand speaker, and then again on the left, and place your panels there and just see what that actually sounds like, you know. Just, again, it's trial and improvement. But I mean, that's something that I say that I learned from YouTube and it worked. And then after that, I had to trial and improve, you know. I had to put a panel in there and just see if it works, you know. I had to move stuff around. And again, I'm moving stuff in the studio all the time. I mean, the last time someone had come in here, you know, the desk was another way and the speakers again were somewhere else. So yeah, don't be afraid to keep trialing and improving your studio, because your studio is going to be different to mine, going to be different to someone else's. So whatever works for you, works for you. So for that point onwards, actually, I'm going to come on to the interface that I've got today. So this is a Focusrite, which is a 2i2 USB-C lent by Focusrite to us. So, you know, it's got a monitor control at the front. It's got a direct monitor. It's got 2 XLR inputs. It's got the out at the back for my monitors. And then what I've got for today is my headphone jack plugged in over there. Now, as you see, I've got my artist today, and he's going to sing and he's going to want to hear himself, but I also need to hear himself too. So I've got a little splitter. Now, this is an easy fix. Instead of buying a kind of new interface where you need 2 headphone outs, you know, I've ended up purchasing a little splitter on Amazon for about £5, you know, and that fixed it, because Rose can hear himself, I can hear myself, and that's kind of what we want to do to track, you know. So again, I have my 1 XLR for the mic plugged in over here. I have my output, which is the left and right for my monitors. And then I have kind of just a control for the input of the mic. And then I have a direct monitor input, which is what I'm going to hear on my monitors. And then I have a small headphone out just over here, which controls a splitter between mine and Verose's headphones. Now there's a 48 volt button as well. And if I press that, then it will give some power to the mic so that it kind of does what it needs to do. Okay, cool. So this is kind of, so this is all I need to get vocals from Verose into my software, you know. And going back to when I first started, there was nothing different. You know, I bought the M Audio, and the whole kind of objective when I bought that was I need to get vocals from, in reality, out into my software. And this does the exact same thing as that does. So it's pretty cool, you know, because even though it's been 8 years since I had that, you know, nothing much apart from small things really have changed, in the sense of everything is still unified and it's quite easy to control. And, you know, I know what monitor means on there and now here, and, you know, it's amazing. Right. Now I'm going to talk about actually the vocalist, and kind of when Verose sings, or when an artist comes in and they want to sing. Now, how do I kind of make sure that they are comfortable with the mic positioning and kind of just the treatment around there? And what if they want to move the mic around? You know, there's several options. So in my studio specifically, I have a reflection filter just in the corner over there. And that one you normally get so you can put it on the mic. But what I did is I took it off and I put it in the corner. And that was like a simple fix one, you know. So today we're going to be going with that option where the mic's just in the corner and Vero is going to sing there, and it's a reflection filter just at the back, you know. But the other option, which I've come across, which is really cool, is now this vocal cube. Now, the vocal cube allows you to place the microphone anywhere in the room. So if you remember, I was saying Vero sometimes likes to sit next to me just on the left-hand side and likes to songwrite. And before it was an issue because I have, you know, my laptop, I have my speakers, and, you know, there might be some static sound that's getting picked up by the microphone, or just a fan noise. So when I found this online, this is called the vocal cube, by the way. When I found this online, I was very shocked, because it's, you know, it's such an easy fix. It's just an isolation ball where you place on the microphone, and now it's kind of like having a small vocal kind of cube, I guess, on the mic, with a pop filter as well. So you can take your pop filter off, pop this on the mic, and you can place the mic anywhere in the room, and, you know, it will sound like how you've got it in the corner, I guess. Today we're not going to go for this option because we're going to see Rose record in the corner over there. But yeah, so definitely when you look at your studio, have a look at the options that you can have, you know. So if you want to move your mic around the room, you don't want to keep it directly in the corner or with a reflection filter, just look at the vocal cube. You know, this was, again, I went for a budget, and this was around £25 that I got. I think it was on Amazon as well. So yeah, have a look for these, the vocal cubes. So going back to the mic position today, when we get tracking going a bit later on, we're going to make sure that the vocalist is singing literally a hand distance from the mic. You know, sometimes I'd have a pop filter. Well, I'd always have a pop filter on. Sometimes it could be the circle pop filter. Today we're using a Lewitt 640 TS, great microphone lended by Lewitt. They're great microphones, and we're not going to use the circle one because they've actually provided a pop filter that directly fits on top. So there's a lot of microphones that actually would provide you a kind of mesh pop filter, or, you know, you could buy one again from Amazon. They're about £10. That way it will cut out all the pops, you know, the P's and stuff like that the mic's going to pick up. So again, the Lewitt one is pretty useful, pretty good. But if I was not using the Lewitt microphone, then I do have the circle one, which I can just put on top of the tripod and get that going. So yeah, so another thing is, you know, for my studio specifically, is I love listening to music in here. You know, I love hearing kind of stuff that's on Spotify, on Apple Music, and just stuff like that, just to get, just to make sure that I can, you know, just to tune my ears into my room and listen to other people's music. You know, the best thing that I've done, I think, throughout my career of being in, just not even in Avid, but just in music itself, and it's just listening to other people's music, gaining inspiration, watching YouTube, and stuff like that. And again, another point that I would love to make is on YouTube, a lot of people like to say, hey, you shouldn't watch, you shouldn't follow exactly what they're doing. I get that. So if you're learning how to use a compressor or an EQ, you know, don't follow exactly their settings, but just use it as a guideline so you learn how to use the compressor itself. Because again, the recording that the person does on YouTube is not going to be the same recording that you would actually be doing in the studio yourself. So I would say, you know, learn from YouTube and then get some inspiration, and always write notes. You know, I have a notebook always kind of to hand where I just write all my notes on there and just make sure that I kind of follow these notes. And if I'm like, hey, I want to buy that light, I've made sure that I've actually wrote it down, and that light might give me some inspiration in the future, you know. So yeah, again, just always learn from YouTube, and trial and improvement is kind of the biggest thing that I would say from today's webinar. It's very important. So yeah. So today, actually, we're gonna track some vocals, and they're gonna be Rosa's vocals on a track. And the first thing that I want to do actually is I want to just talk about the session that I have today. So I have this track here. So I've been lucky to work with people like Veroz before, and we've made many singles before on playlists on Spotify, Apple's iTunes #1 before. And we've cut loads of records before in the past. So working with Rose, it's been amazing. And we've got this record here today as well, which is called Chosen. It's more like a pop record. And, you know, today we're going to actually track his verse today. So again, going back to my Focusrite, what I want to make sure that I've done is I want to make sure that I've got, you know, the mic in. So, sorry, Rose, if you mind just going to the mic 1 second and just giving me a signal. So when he sings...
1, 2.
You know, the light comes on straight away. And I think this is just having that indication shows, okay, my mic's connected, it's working, everything's fine. 48 volts is on because it's giving phantom power to the microphone to allow it to actually, you know, give some signal. Again, it's a great way. Now, there's actually a button over here called Direct Monitor. So if that is on, right, so now I can actually control the signal that Rose is singing. He can actually hear himself now. So if you go into Pro Tools over here and go up to Options and go to Low Latency Mode, and monitoring is actually on. So what low latency does, low latency mutes the output of the record track so that the signal is not doubled, right? Because Rose wants to hear himself, I want to hear him. And again, on the splitter, we've got the signal split now because I can hear him and then he can hear himself too, you know? So today I've created a track over here called Tracking. And tracking is basically just kind of recording Rose, you know? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select input 1 because as you saw, I've selected it in, I've inputted it in input 1 over here, the XLR, and now I've got tracking there, right? So as you know, to record, you record, enable the tracking track, and then you record. So what I'm going to do now is I'm actually going to just bring up a track preset. Now, this is an amazing feature, right? So if you bring up track presets, I've actually created one just in the folder over here. So this is my workspace, guys. And I've got loads of track presets, which I've created before. You know, I've got Gaurav's vocal start. I've got a reverb bus. I've got many like channel strips and delays. They're just settings that I've saved from previous sessions that sounded great. So I've had artists like Rose or other people come in before, and they've been like, hey man, can you save that vocal chain because it sounds great? And I'm like, oh wow, yeah, of course I can. So I'll bring it up in another session so that we don't have to kind of go through the creating that chain again. It's already done and I can tweak it myself. So today I've actually got this reverb bus and I'm going to drag that in. And now this is something that I created maybe last year. You know, it's a simple deverb, deverb on a bus, on a bus. You know, and what I'm going to do is for tracking, I'm actually going to I'm going to go to send and I'm going to add the reverb just over here, and I'm actually going to pop it up a little bit just so we get some reverb. I'm going to record enable the track. So again, I could do that by pressing Shift R or simply just pressing the little red icon there. So, Rose, if you mind just singing and just hear if you can hear yourself.
1, 2. Yeah, I can hear myself.
Amazing. Is that good with reverb?
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah, cool. So if it wasn't, I could, again, bring it up or bring it down. So I'm going to leave it about there because I think that's quite a nice signal, you know. And what I'm going to do actually, guys, I'm going to show you the track itself. So like I said, you know, we've got a track called Chosen. It's semi-finished, I'd say. You know, we still got some stuff to do on it. But I'll play it from the drop, actually, just so you guys can hear exactly what it sounds like. So that's our track called Chosen. You know, it was actually produced by myself, Rose, and a great producer called Bajaj Music. He's got many kind of number ones. You know, he's done so much music as well. So we work together and we work on a lot of kind of music, kind of pretty much every other day. So today we're going to record Rose's verse on this track. You know, so what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to create a playlist. And the way we like to work is I like to comp Rose's vocals. So I get him to do 3 or 4 takes around something, and with that, it gives me the feature to grab certain words from a good take. And if you've done a bad take, then I can kind of get rid of that and I can compile it into one amazing take, you know, and that's what we like to do in playlist mode. So if I come over here to the tracking, you can see a small arrow. If I just select that and go to new, and now it's created a new playlist. Now I want to see this playlist as well. So if I go to waveform, just select that, and select playlists, you can see now it's got tracking. You know, it's as he records, it's going to start adding more audio files downwards. So I want to just make sure that I highlight verse here. You know, so I'm going to come over actually to grid mode. So the top left, I select grid mode. I'm just going to make sure that I've got the verse selected there. Got it over there. So for Rose, I'm going to bring you in. We're going to do 1 take, and then we're going to do a few more takes just after that for the verse. Is that cool? Yeah, sure. Perfect. So let's go.
Baby, I'm done waiting. I feel my heart racing. I've been trying to heal yours, but it's mine that's breaking. Although I try containing, nothing helps to change it. It's been going on for too long, too long.
That was amazing. Perfect. And now we're going to do another take on top. You could have this in loop as well, but I mean, when we like to track, we do it like this, and we just do a few, and then we kind of start chopping and adding them on top. But I'll show you guys what we normally would do. Coming again, Rose, yeah?
Baby, I'm done waiting. I feel my heart racing. I've been trying to heal yours, but it's mine that's breaking. Although I try containing, nothing helps to change it. It's been going on for too long, too long.
Amazing. And maybe just one more.
Baby, I'm done waiting. I feel my heart racing. I've been trying to heal yours, but it's mine that's breaking. Although I try contain it, nothing helps to change it. It's been going on for too long, too long.
Now you can see that we've got some files here now, actually, which have been created, and they're Verose's takes. So what we normally would do is we'd actually go through kind of each syllable or each kind of word, and then we just highlight it and kind of drag it up so that we can kind of overwrite the original file. You see, so I'm going to change this back over to slip mode. Just over here, let's say if we like that section there, we just bring it up. And as you see, the lead, the final lead now has actually become what we like. So just to make it easy for you guys, actually, I'm going to just put everything into a folder. So just so you can all see the tracking itself. So I've selected all my kind of elements of the track. I right click here and I just head down to move to a new folder. I'm going to name it basic folder, but you could have a routing folder where you can actually route all the audio into that folder. But for this, I'm just going to do it for hiding purposes. And I'm going to call this chosen. And I'm going to click create. Now as you see, everything over here is now gone into a folder, and I can close that folder now. As you see, it's so much easier for you guys to see. So when we're actually tracking, we can't track with too much on that tracking folder, because what I like to do is when I've got the lead or the take that I really like, I've already got a chain, which I was talking about before, which has got a lot of my plugins for Verose's for his vocals. So he would use this in a normal kind of session with me, So we would track, and we like what we've got here. We've already comped it, and we just bring it down, and then we can actually just play with that. So now going back, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to get rid of this over here. Rose, are you okay to record the pre-chorus?
Sure.
Amazing. So I'm going to put this back in record enable mode, and I'm going to bring Rose in.
Too long, 'cause I can't help but feel like you're chosen. You're the one and I know it, and I feel it most when I'm close to you. Each night with you is a moment when you hold my focus, and I don't want no one, 'cause I've chosen you.
Amazing. We could, yep, try one more time.
Sure.
Yep.
Too long, 'cause I can't help but feel like you're chosen. You're the one and I know it, and I feel it most when I'm close to you. Each night with you is a moment when you hold my focus, and I don't want no one, 'cause I've chosen you.
That was a great take. So yeah, again, so now we record the pre-chorus. What we could do is we could just bring that down now to Verose 2. And actually, we've actually created, we've got his chorus, we've got his pre-chorus, we've got the verse. And then what we like to do all the time is, as we're songwriting or if we're kind of making the track, we like to do some, would you say ad-libs, or would you like to do some harmonies?
Ad-libs,
yeah,
harmonies.
For the pre-chorus?
Sure.
Cool. Perfect. Actually, I'll bring it in from halfway through the verse, and then you can take it from there. So we're going to track some BBs or harmonies now.
Although I try contain it, nothing helps to change it. It's been going on for too long, too long. 'Cause I can't help but feel like you're chosen. You're the one and I know it, and I feel it most when I'm close to you. Each night with you is a moment when you hold my focus, and I don't want no one, 'cause I've chosen you.
So once we've done that, that was a great take for us. Loved it. I'm just going to basically just get rid of everything. Actually, the best way to do this is you press Command and U. You can bring up this amazing strip silence. And now it's actually just going to, you can use this over here and just strip out the parts that you don't need. There we go. Perfect. And now if I bring this down to BV, and again, it's a track preset that I had from before, and I've made it and I've just brought it in, So I'm going to actually just add a reverb send over here. And just crank that up to about there. Do the same over here. And with BVs, I love them wide. I love them to sound like they're kind of just around you, I'd say. So I'm just going to add one more here. About there. Awesome. So now I'll play you guys back the track.
Baby, I'm done waiting. I feel my heart racing. I've been trying to heal yours, but it's mine that's breaking. Although I try contain it, nothing helps to change it. It's been going on for too long, too long. 'Cause I can't help but feel like you're chosen. You're the one and I know it. And I feel it most when I'm close to you. Each night with you is a moment when you hold my focus. And I don't want no one 'cause I've chosen you.
And that pretty much is how we would track. And obviously from this point onwards, we'd slowly start mixing it. We'd add some elements. We'd use stuff like expand to create layers of sounds. We'd have pads and stuff on top, and we just start building from this point onwards to the point we get to a final kind of track. And that is kind of how I would track vocals. And thank you, Rose, for singing great vocals there. It was amazing, easy. And and I hope I've helped with having a great creative environment. And again, what I would say is just head over to YouTube. Never be afraid of using kind of the tools that we've got like YouTube and stuff like that, because obviously back in 2012 we still had YouTube, but there wasn't as much material as there is today. Google and YouTube, they provide us with so much stuff that we can actually go out there and actually learn about this stuff so easily that you don't have to kind of pay professionals to come in and do it for you. You can just learn so simply. And all these tools are right in our kind of arm's reach. So again, thank you for watching me show my studio. Thank you.
You're muted, Greg.
Oh, Greg.
Oh, wait, here we go.
There you
Sorry.
go.
Sorry about that, guys. Just wanted to say thank you guys very much, Gaurav, Rose. The track sounds amazing. We've got some great comments and questions coming in from across all the platforms. So again, thank you for that. So we're going to jump right into Q&A. We've got a little bit of time for some of the questions. So one of the first questions that got asked, I believe it came in from LinkedIn, was, so you actually covered a bit talking about, Gaurav talking about some of the basic studio equipment that you're using. The second part of that question was really surrounding finding clients as a freelancer. So wanted to know if you had any comments around how, obviously you've got a pretty tight knit squad and group of folks that you produce and work with, but if you're looking for other folks to work with, is there a way you do that? How do you typically tend to handle that?
Yeah, I mean, I, as a lot of my colleagues know, a lot of my friends know, I love Instagram. Again, having a free platform where you can reach out to people so easily. I've used that for everything. I mean, like Vero's over here, he lives 5 minutes away, but we still met from a mutual friend from Instagram. We rely so heavily on Instagram to find our clients and just find our team. And my advice with that would be kind of just like, eventually it will come. I mean, I was working alone, trying to songwrite, sing, do everything at once, to the point where I was like, I kind of need a team of people where we can, everyone has their role, and eventually it does come. Again, it's just using all the online platforms that you have, Twitter, Instagram, everything's kind of there. So yeah, I mean, I would say, just stick to just being kind of present on Instagram and just using hashtags and finding hashtags and stuff like that. Yeah.
Great. So I'll add a couple of other quick things there. So Avid Link, which we have, here is our kind of collaboration platform. It's a great way for you to find folks, not just within the Avid community, but folks, just musicians and producers, engineers all over the world. It's a free application that you can download from the Avid site. So make sure you grab that if you wanted to start looking for other folks to possibly collaborate with. But I think, certainly what you mentioned, Gaurav, is absolutely true. Kind of going back to the YouTube thing as well, I wanted to quickly mention that obviously, it's 2020 now. The internet's been around a long while now, and there's a lot of content out there, and I wanted to quickly just make sure I point back to you guys, to Gaurav, you and the rest of the product specialist team, that you guys have created a really amazing platform with your Pro Tools Tech Tips, which are these 1 minute, 2 minute videos that are very quick, but really explain so much of what's happening on the Pro Tools platform. So if you haven't checked that out, make sure you check that out. You can go to avid.com/Pro Tools Tech Tips. So we've got some other questions. So someone wanted to know if you're using low latency monitoring in this session when you were tracking those.
Yeah. So I had low latency monitoring on. We did that kind of, again, primarily so we can use the direct monitor mode on Focusrite itself. And then, Rose could hear himself. I could hear him as well. So yeah, that's just in the options menu on Pro Tools. So if you go up to options, you can just see low latency mode monitoring. And if you turn it on, yeah.
Cool. Over in, looks like it was Facebook, how did you decide the monitor height? So we know you've got your kind of equilateral triangle situation for the spacing of the monitors, but as far as the monitor height, how'd you decide that?
Well, actually, it's a funny story. So we got so first of all, they had to be at ear level. So my dad had like a little platform thing, and he popped a level on there and just made sure it was kind of in level of my ears. And to be fair, it was. And his little technique that he had worked. But yeah, again, it's just like kind of making sure it's at ear level. You can get kind of a ruler or a measuring tape or something, or kind of something that's straight, and you can kind of just work it out that it's straight. I mean, that's what I would do. Greg, is there anything you'd add on top of that you would kind of do?
I think just for the actual height from the floor to the you want it to be air level. I think is pretty much kind of the standard rule there. Obviously, if you're doing Atmos or something, that's a whole other different ball of wax. But for normal music production, you're going to want them to be at ear level. But yeah, excellent. So questions are continue to roll in. One of the questions here is, what are your search terms on YouTube?
It varies. It does vary. Kind of day in, day out, I watch again, kind of like things like Pro Tools top tips. Even I'm learning from them. Little things like playlist shortcuts and recording shortcuts and stuff like that. There's so much stuff in there, but it really depends. Sometimes it's kind of like how to record clean vocals. It depends on what the objective is, I guess. So if I wanted to learn about speakers, and again, it will be based on speaker placement, and I'll just filter through. So sometimes I just sit there on my iPad and I just keep watching videos, and I watch about 5 or 6 around one kind of topic, because if you watch one, you might get sided to that one specific kind of technique. But if you watch 5 or 6, again, you're open to so many different kind of areas around that one topic. And again, writing notes is so essential for me. I'm always writing notes off YouTube, because again, if I want to come back to, I have a memory of a fish, I don't remember things. So I have to write down notes so that I can come back to it, and I could, and I know, I remember that technique. So yeah, and just write maybe and subscribe to whoever it is, see if they come up with new stuff in the future.
Awesome. Great. Thanks, Gaurav. So Joe Dunham had a question. He said, you mentioned that you snake your cables. Do you find that you experience any interference with multiple cables running parallel to each other in the snake?
I haven't experienced that yet. I've put 5 or 6 cables in a snake before, and that still didn't cause any issues. But I have, at the minute now, they're kind of more separated because I've had to move stuff around. So I'd say no, but I know a lot of people have had it before, when they've had kind of like 2 kettle cables in one snake, and that's caused an issue. For me specifically, again, it was trial and improvement. it worked. Nothing really caused an issue, but sometimes, yeah.
Yeah, I think one of the things you want to be cognizant there as well is, you know, using good quality cables, especially if they're going to be sitting next to each other. You want to have good shielded cable, depending on the cable type it is, which will help mitigate any possible interference. So we got some other questions rolling through here. Do you mix on headphones at all, Gaurav?
I reference on headphones. I normally have my Genelec monitors, which I have in front of me. I have some PC 20-pound speakers, which I have also in front of me. And also I have my headphones as well at hand, so I can just reference between. But specifically, I wouldn't mix on my headphones unless I was traveling, unless one of the artists I'm working with needed something really quick, like a demo, then I can quickly do that on my headphones. Headphones I see more as a thing for when I'm traveling and stuff, and if I'm tracking. But I love using my monitors, you know. It's just I feel way more comfortable, just being because I've got the panels up, and you know, it just makes me feel a bit more comfortable for listening and mixing.
Cool. We've got a question here from Rick Tozek. Apologies if I mispronounced your last name there. But Rick said you mentioned the bass trap in your build slides. Can you talk a little bit more about that? And wanted to let you know, good job with the session.
Okay, thank you, Rick. Yeah, so on day 7, if you remember, I had like a small bass trap. I had no idea why I did that. Again, I saw it on YouTube. And then someone told me when I was like, hey, man, like something's going on with the low end in my room. And I couldn't really suss it out what it was. And I was on YouTube, I was on Google all night. And I was trying to ask my colleagues as well and be like, what can I do? What can I do? And someone recommended that I should get like a bigger bass trap to just trap the low frequency, just make sure... the low end just sounds better. Now, when I've put these bigger traps in, it just sounds better. Specifically, I don't know exactly what it's doing. Again, it was trial and improvement for my studio. Being a home studio, I wasn't sure exactly where I should place them and stuff like that, but I've just had to move them around, you know. I purchased them on a kind of UK site, UK foam, and they kind of create them to your actual, like kind of the dimensions you give them. Yeah. So that was kind of what I did with the new traps that I've got now. They're only on kind of 1, 2, and then 3 because I've got rid of the one that was in the corner and placed it with a reflection filter. And again, I probably will get rid of that very soon and put the other bass trap there. So I've got all 4 corners kind of sorted out. But at the minute, I'm always, again, transitioning to make my final creative space.
Cool. Thanks for that. So we've got another one. So you talked about it a little bit in the build, but maybe it might be kind of interesting to maybe hear from Veroz as well. Okay. On this next question, which is any tips on making an artist comfortable in a home studio? So maybe I'll open it up to both of you, actually.
Wow. I think in terms of being an artist in a studio, Gaurav's actually done a really good job in terms of, you know, the lighting is one of the main things. I think lighting for artists just gets them in a certain mood, can really set the tone for a writing session or a recording session. And even just having like a spacious environment, a spacious, clean environment that you can feel comfortable relaxing in. Like me, I've come in here, I've taken off my shoes and it feels like home. So I feel like that's always a good thing for producers, to actually make like an artist feel welcome in a studio. That way it actually allows them to express what they're doing, because singing is such an emotional thing and they should be able to do that comfortably.
Great. Thanks for that.
And always have lots of supply of water is what I'd say as well.
That's essential for sure. So I think we've got time for 1 or 2 more. One of the questions that came in, Gaurav, are you in your room? Are you using a subwoofer?
I am normally. I've actually got it off at the minute, but again, I've got a Genelec sub that's connected to my Genelecs sometimes. I found it in my room because my room's it's not a huge room. It wasn't essential. And I felt like sometimes when I was mixing my low end. I just had too much freedom with the low end because I've got the sub sitting there. And I felt like when I was creating beats or I was even mixing kind of a bass that I've got from somewhere else, I was making it sound too thick, you know, because I wanted it to pop through for the subs. So I felt like when I took it off and I just used my monitors, I had a better mixing experience for my low end. But yeah, I do have a sub.
Excellent. So I think we've got time for one more. You know, when you had the room built and now you're spending time in there, how long did it take you? So it's kind of a two-parter. One, how long did it take you to get used to the new room? That's the first part of the question, and then I'll follow up with the second part after you answer that part.
So if I'm honest with you, it took quite a while because I wasn't used to I was used to having a small box, you know, it was literally a tiny room. It was so easy kind of to treat or just to kind of deaden the sound because it was tiny. It was really, really small. Whereas as it got bigger, I was just, I felt a little bit like, oh, wow, man, there's so much more room now. Like, where's the reflections now? You know, how do I find these reflections? So I'd say it took me a good 2 months to get to the point where I could be like, you know what? Now my listening environment is great. And that was kind of just again trial and error. You know, I was ringing up colleagues, I was FaceTiming engineers because I'm from London. I was ringing up producing engineers from the USA and stuff like that, and just asking them what they thought as well.
Awesome. So second part to that question, and then we'll wrap it there. Is on a scale of 1 to 10, how much did you feel your mixing and creative environment improved? 1 being no, not at all to 10 being like just totally totally mind blowing and changing.
Improved from kind of when I first began.
From your first iteration of the room.
Wow, huge amount. I think because I focus more on so before when I had the studio, I was just placing stuff where I thought, and it did trap some of the reflections, but I didn't look into it properly. And again, I was always like, man, it's gonna be expensive. I'm gonna have to hire someone to come in and do it. But I mean, my dad's all about the kind of, look, go do it yourself. You can figure it out. If someone else could do it, you can probably do a smaller version, but you can do it. So, I spent kind of in lockdown so much time on my hands, but I just was Googling different options, how to build, how to do this, how to do that. And luckily I was gifted, but if I wasn't, then I would have just made them. And that's probably what I'd say. But yeah, it definitely has helped. I mean, it's just, again, I see it more when people come to record and we could get a track recorded within like even the recordings we did today, we're happy with them, once you've gone through them, and then it doesn't take long. Whereas before it used to take longer because it's like, hey, it doesn't sound right, or the mic's picking up too much low end, or this is happening, that's happening. So now it's a bit more kind of unified and a bit more structured. I mean, yeah. So yeah.
Well, Gaurav and Varoz, thank you guys so very much for that. That was amazing. We are at the end of our time, but again, thank you so very much, and thank you to all of you who joined us here for the community audio webinar. This will be kind of living on demand, so make sure if you happen to miss it or want to recommend it to some friends, make sure you do that. For those of you who registered, we'll be sending out an email following up, so you'll have the link to that. Just guys, thank you very much. We'll be back. We've got more webinars planned over the course of the next few months. So make sure you hang out and come back for more. We're going to be covering a lot of other things. Again, thank you, Gaurav. Thank you, Varoz. And again, thank you to all of you. Continue to stay safe, and we'll see you all very soon. Thank you. Have a good one.
Thank you, everyone.